Sebenarnya kurang kalau begini. Nggak ada gregetnya. Tinggal tarik pelatuk. Macam pesan layar aja. Ini permainan yang gue suka.
Welcome to the high rise from hell, where we're tearing into the raw brilliance of the raid. That 2011 Indonesian knockout that smashed Hollywood's bloated action empire. We'll unpack the scrappy production, killer score, no-frills visuals, tight plot, fearless cast, heavy themes, lasting legacy and ripples still shaking cinema. So grab your machete, we're climbing this monster together. So how did this film even come together? Gareth Evans, a tough Welshman who sees the whole board, showed up in Indonesia to shoot Pencak Silat. Fierce martial art powers the raid's non-stop energy. He'd sketched out Berendal, a big gangster story set deep in a prison's ugly belly, but when the cash dried up, he didn't blink. He shrunk it down to one tight tower, a rough gem born from a broken budget. With just 1.1 million, barely enough for Hollywood's coffee run, and a crew that had fit in a cab, Evans worked a miracle in a Jakarta tenement. Instead of real firepower, they used airsoft guns, painting on flashes later like a budget tack, while 4 months of tough prep shaped the fights into a brutal ballet, flipping the script from English to Indonesian for authenticity. The SWAT crew trained with Kopaska, Indonesia's naval special forces. That high-rise isn't just a backdrop, it's a living snare, every floor a fresh hell, rigged with traps and oozing menace. The credits nod to massage therapists, a grim laugh at the busted bones they left behind. Proof that this wasn't some cushy gig. Hollywood's smooth machine got outplayed by this jagged all-in push, and it's obvious. Back in Indonesia, Arya Prayogi and Fajar Yuskamel brewed a deep industrial hum for Serbuan Mort, the deadly raid. And this fits the tower's grip like a glove. Sony snagged it for the US, slapped on the raid redemption after botching the original name. Classic corporate genius. Meanwhile, Evans called up Mike Shinoda, Linkin Park sound wizard, and Joseph Trapanese, pre-Tron legacy, to juice it up for the world. Shinoda's hip-hop, rock and electronica mashup swings like silent hits, quick, fierce, tied to the fight's beat, which he nerded out over like it was his big win. Japanese's synths thrum like the tower's fading lights, giving it a snarl that gets in your head. They built a lean, mean soundscape, no Hans Zimmer millions, just two guys with laptops outfoxing Hollywood's waste. Machete standoff simmers tense for Rama and Mad Dog. Drug Lab blows up with the tower's madness. It's a score that cuts deep. The visuals in the raid don't mess around. They grab you by the throat and don't let go. Gareth Evans teamed up with Matt Flannery and they tossed out Hollywood's flashy playbook. No cranes, no Steadicams, just a Panasonic AF100 rigged to a fig rig. Now this is an oddball wheel contraption that looks like something a broke mechanic dreamed up after a very long night. It's not slick, but it works like hell. Handheld shots slink through that high-rise dodging blades and fists, locking you in tight with Rama as the chaos unfolds. Every bone snap and grunt hitting you. Flannery didn't lean on studio polish, he used the tower's own flickering bulbs, those half-dead buzzers, and grimy, streaked windows to turn it into a living, breathing monster. Not some scrubbed-down set waiting for its close-up. Compare that to Bay's Transformers Dark of the Moon from the same year. All shiny CGI gloss that feels like a car ad with explosions, while the raid wades into the muck, catching the sheen of sweat, the splatter of blood, the kind of details that make you wince. Wide shots lay out the fights like a brutal ballet, letting you see the flow, the way Rama moves, the space he's carving through, while the tight frames choke you right down into it. Like when Mad Dog's backed into a corner and the walls seem to smirk as they close in. It's not just about what you see, it's how it feels. That shaky, in-your-face rush that keeps your pulse up. The tower's no passive backdrop, it's a player. It's jagged edges and dim corners feeding the tension, making every fight a duel with the place itself. Flannery's lens doesn't flinch, it stares straight into the mess, daring you to look away from a high-rise that's as alive and mean as the guy slugging it out inside. The story's lean and mean. A brutal scrap that doesn't waste breath on chit-chat. Kicks off with a SWAT team storming a Jakarta tenement, aiming to snatch Tama, a drug lord perched at the top like he's running the show. Betrayal slams the door shut behind them, and from there it's a floor-by-floor grind, each level tearing them apart in a relentless slugfest. Rama, the rookie with steel running through him, steps up as the last man standing when the dust settles. There's barely 10 minutes of dialogue in its 101-minute run. It's all action, no fluff. Driving forward like a train with no brakes. Critics peg it as a video game busted loose, each floor ramping up the danger in that towering death trap. And they're not wrong. It's got that level-by-level escalation, just soaked in blood instead of pixels. Forget wisecracks or slow-motion swagger. This is about pushing through or going down. The high-rise itself is the real boss, flickering lights, hidden traps and oddballs like floor hole attacker number 4, a ghost in the credits, keeping it unpredictable. Someone clocked it at 27 minutes of pure combat, and Evans didn't fuss with extras. He let the tower's raw dread carry the weight, crafting a one-building saga that still lands heavy. The cast isn't your usual lineup of polished Hollywood stars. No glossy idols here. Gareth Evans scoured the streets and gyms of Indonesia, unearthing fighters whose lives were already steeped in the intensity he needed. Take Iko Uwais, who became Rama, the film's quiet, lethal heart. Before Evans found him, he was just a guy hauling mobile phones around Jakarta, working as a delivery driver. Evans spotted him in a 2007 documentary about Pencak Silat and saw something, a reserved everyman who could explode into a neck-snapping force. Rama doesn't waste words. He's not there to chat you up. He's there to dismantle you. And Iko Uwais brought that to life with a stillness that makes his violence feel inevitable. Then there's Yahya and Ruhian, the short, wiry fireball who plays Mad Dog. He's no actor by trade. He's a legit Silat master who spent years training Indonesia's elite presidential guards back in 1989. That's not just a cool backstory, it's the kind of real-world heft that seeps into every move he makes. Mad Dog isn't some cartoon villain, he's a craftsman of chaos. Compact but terrifying. His danger carved out of decades of experience, not just a scriptwriter's pen. He and Iko Uwais didn't just perform the fights, they choreographed them, hammering out each sequence like artisans shaping raw metal into something razor sharp. That partnership turned the high-rise into their brutal playground, every punch and kick a testament to their skill. Joe Taslim rounds out the trio as Jaka, the seasoned sergeant leading the squad. He's got his own Silat pedigree, a former member of Indonesia's national judo team who pivoted to martial arts and brought a grounded weight to the role. Jaka's not the star, he doesn't make it out of the tower alive, but his early exit lands like a gut punch, a reminder that no one's untouchable in this world. Joe Taslim's presence adds a sombre note to the carnage, his steady command clashing with the chaos that swallows him. Together they turn that claustrophobic high-rise into something primal. No CGI crutches or overpaid egos, just sweat, blood and raw ability. Mad Dog's line, pulling a trigger's like ordering takeout, isn't just a quip. It's the film's soul. Guns are for the lazy, real power is in their hands, their feet, their mastery of Silat. That martial art isn't just choreography here, it's the thread tying the story together, weaving trust and betrayal into the tower's concrete bones. Iko Uwais, Yahya and Ruhian and Joe Taslim didn't need to fake it, they lived it. And the film's truth comes from that unfiltered authenticity. It's gritty, it's real, and it hits like a brick to the face. So what's really going on under the raid's mess of blood and fists? Survival's the core. It's what keeps Rama moving, floor after floor. A guy fighting tooth and nail just to breathe another minute. You can almost taste the desperation as he climbs. Every swing a raw push against a tower that wants him dead. It's not about glory, it's about not giving up, even when your knuckles are raw and the odds suck. Grit's baked into everything too, not just in the action, but in how this whole thing got made. Evans and his crew had that tiny budget, pennies next to Hollywood's piles, and a run-down building. Yet they turned it into something that leaves big-budget flops looking foolish. It's the kind of grit that doesn't shout, just keeps swinging, proving you don't need cash to make a dent. You need nerve and a plan. Then there's redemption, quieter but real, threading through Rama's chaos. He's got a pregnant wife out there somewhere, a thin lifeline pulling him up through the gore, and those quick shots of his Muslim prayers at the start hint at a guy holding on to something decent while he's cracking skulls. It's not loud or preachy, it's personal, a flicker of hope he's chasing through the mess. The high-rise turns it all up to 11, a concrete hellhole that doesn't just frame the story but presses down on it, forcing every hit to mean something, peeling back the layers to show what Rama's really made of. Not just muscle but guts, and a reason to keep going. Brotherhood's heavy in there too. A tie that's as much pain as power. Rama starts with his SWAT team, a tight group until betrayal guts them, and he's left hauling their memory up those stairs. It's not some grand speech, it's in the way he fights harder after they're gone, like he's carrying their weight alongside his own. And then there's the whole brother piece. So what does the raid leave behind? Well, a hell of a mark. At 1.1 million, spun into 9 million worldwide, proof Evans didn't need Hollywood's deep pockets, just guts. It stormed Toronto's 2011 Midnight Madness, grabbing the people's choice like it was a given. 87% on Rotten Tomatoes, even if Ebert's 1-star half about too much violence means he sort of missed the point. Silat went global after that, setting up the Raid 2 in 2014, and Bay's remake Stab just feels like a punchline now. So the Raid didn't just end, it flipped the table on action films and left a blueprint others couldn't ignore. Take John Wick in 2014. Its tight, brutal gun fu owes a nod to the Raid's Silat moves, and directors Chad Stahelski and David Leitch have straight up said they looked at Gareth Evans' work for inspiration. By John Wick Chapter 3 Parabellum in 2019, it's blatant. The Raid's Yayan Ruhian and Sisep Arif Rahman show up as assassins, carving up Keanu Reeves like a bloody homage. Then there's A Night Comes For Us in 2018, cranking the violence to unhinged levels with Uwais and Joe Taslim. It's the Raid on a rampage, proving the style could stretch without breaking. Extraction in 2020 grabbed the long-take chaos trick. Those single-shot brawls owe Evans a quiet thank you for showing how to keep it tight and wild. Even Dredd in 2012 gets dragged into the conversation, with its cop in a tower setup. Pure coincidence, not a rip-off. Both films cooked separately. Dredd from 2000 AD comics. But the Raid landed first and louder, so it owns the vibe. I'll tackle Dredd soon. Point is, the Raid showed you don't need a sprawling set or a fat wallet, just one nasty box and a guy who won't quit. Hollywood's big spenders caught on late, trimming excess after years of overstuffed budgets. Look at Daredevil's hallway fights on Netflix. Same cramped bloody grind, straight out of Evans' playbook. He kicked off a wave of leaner, meaner action that's still rolling, proving less can hit harder. So that's the Raid, a high-rise storm where a director's guts, a cast of no-names and a score that bites, turned chaos into something sharp. Gareth Evans didn't poke Hollywood's fat CGI-stuffed empire, he gutted it with a rusty blade, writing a better playbook in Jakarta dirt. That gamble torched excess and fired up action's core. It's still ringing out in every tight, hard-hitting flick worth a damn. Evans showed, cash and sprawl, don't beat guts in a corner. Thanks for climbing this wreck with me. Every flaw a kick, every punch a lesson in what film can pull off. More breakdowns of mould breakers are on the way. Subscribe, join up, grab a blade, and let's hunt the next rough gem. Catch you soon.